Tensions are at a new high in Ukraine today. Hundreds of riot police stormed an anti-government demonstration in Kiev. Officers were trying to take down barricades surrounding the camp when clashes erupted. Protesters are angry over the government's decision to back away from an agreement that would strengthen economic ties with the European Union.
Well, it is hard to second-guess what the president is going to do because, as we saw last night, despite all the pleas from the international community that he resist from using force, as you saw in that video, force was used. He has now said, after these series of meetings that he's had today, that he is willing to engage in a round table with the opposition, with groups from civil society, but that the opposition has to be prepared to meet him halfway.
The president who triggered the crisis by pulling out of the agreement with Europe said he was ready to talk to the opposition and made this promise.
I assure you that the government will act in the framework of the law and will never use force against peaceful rallies.
On the square, they just want the president to resign. They don't speak for all of Ukraine, but they are determined and are proving formidable opponents.
U.S. Assistant Secretary of State Victoria Nuland met with President Viktor Yanukovych, then with demonstrators in the capital, Kiev. She handed out sandwiches to protesters and police. She said the U.S. stands with the people of Ukraine in their search for justice, dignity and security. And she said it's still possible to save what she called their European future. The European Union's foreign policy chief, Catherine Ashton, also met with the president and with the protesters. They've been on the streets since Yanukovych cancelled a trade deal with the European Union 3 weeks ago.
Yanukovych is also facing diplomatic pressure from the EU and the US.
All policy options, including sanctions, are on the table. In our view, but obviously that still is being evaluated.
I believe he should sign as soon as possible because I think it's in the interests of Ukraine to do so. I have to accept that what the President says to me is what he's saying to me for me to carry back the message.
The Baroness also said she discussed the police tactics used against the protesters.
I made it perfectly clear that this is not the way to go forward. I made it perfectly clear that we expect to see discussion and dialogue with people who are using their right to assembly to make a peaceful demonstration.
Previously, Catherine Ashton had met opposition leaders. She said the focus was now on bringing about dialogue between all parties concerned. And she stated the EU would play its part to support this process.
Here in the president's hometown of Yenakiyevo, he has strong support. They say that for the local economy, Russia is a better partner.
I support Yanukovych 100% because of the stability he's brought since he became the president.
Despite the geographical divide, opinion polls show that the EU is more popular among Ukrainians than Russia. Many fear the country's hard-won independence will be crippled if it moves back too tightly into Moscow's orbit.